The latest chapter in the Ridley Scott produced The Terror is more than just a horror series, as its stars tease the timely core of its story. The third season in the anthology horror series hails from creators Chris Cantwell and Victor LaValle, with the pair adapting the latter's 2012 novel The Devil in Silver, which centers around New Hyde Psychiatric Hospital, a decaying facility in New York on the verge of being shut down. The nurses and doctor find themselves at odds with the patients, aiming to force them all to be compliant, while also fearing the dark secret lurking behind an ominous silver door. Among those in the hospital are Dory and Miss Chris, one of the hospital's longest residing patients and the head nurse for the facility, played by Poker Face's Judith Light and NCIS, New Orleans CCH Pounder, respectively. Dory serves as a cautionary figure for protagonist Pepper, played by Legion's Dan Stevens, as her extended tenure at New Hyde points to her knowing the truth of the eponymous devil's existence. Miss Chris, meanwhile, brings a no-nonsense approach to her position, even while fearing the entity that haunts the hospital's halls. Alongside Light, Pounder and Stevens, the ensemble terror, The Devil in Silver roster includes Evil's Asif Manvi, Daredevil, Born Against John Benjamin Hickey, Barry's Stephen Root and Silo's Chinaza Uche. Having premiered on May 7, the series is earning rave reviews from critics, currently tied for the best score of all 3 seasons on Rotten Tomatoes with a 94% approval rating from critics. Ahead of the show's premiere, Screen Rant's Grant Hermans interviewed Judith Light and CCH Pounder to discuss The Terror, The Devil in Silver. When asked about her familiarity with LaValle's source novel, Light acknowledged that while she knew of the author, she hadn't read the book until joining the series, discovering it to be a stunning psychological breakdown of all these people in New Hyde. More importantly, however, is that Light described The Devil in Silver as being about a cultural moment in our country and around the world about people with mental health challenges, referring to Dory and the other patient characters in the series. The 3-time Emmy winner expressed that the core of the story is how such people are so often forgotten, taken advantage of, discarded, and discounted, giving it a very timely theme as much as being entertainment. Judith Light: I wasn't aware of this, but Victor really knows a lot about this. So it was great to work with him, and talk to him about the dynamics of this, and what he knew and what he created. In looking at the creation of her performance as Dory, Light acknowledged it was really important for her to closely work with LaValle, Cantwell and director/EP Karyn Kusama to balance her character's lack of lucidity without venturing into caricature territory. She further praised the show's cast as being a group of people that worked together to make this family, denoting that the show's more prescient elements meant The Terror couldn't just be horror, nor could it be just a bunch of crazy people running around. Judith Light: and I don't mean crazy in a pejorative way. I mean it in the sense of how people think about other people who have these issues. These are people with profound mental challenges, but they create some kind of family. So, we worked really closely with everybody. Our hair and makeup team, our other producers, everybody was on board to create this in the most psychologically thrilling way. And I give major props to Victor. It's his initial creation. For Pounder, the 4-time Emmy nominee acknowledged that part of why and how I was cast as Miss Chris for The Terror, The Devil in Silver is that she has a sense of authority in many of her roles, as well as a sense of no-nonsense. Expressing that, whether I'm frou-frou or not is irrelevant, going into a role, she can pull up no-nonsense very quickly, which made her the ideal candidate for the stern head nurse of New Hyde. As she began thinking about the character and giving her additional layers, Pounder found she wanted her to have blinkers at all times, going through every day with the mentality that, I get up, I do my job, I get to work, I've got to take care of my kid and my kid's baby, and the pressures of life. Even more important, which further gave the show a timely core, is that the Emmy nominee thought of her as an immigrant, looking at her cluttered apartment and close family dynamic being her little lot in life. CCH Pounder: she's living the life of many, many people. In-character accent: don't mess it up. You're not seeing that. Pick up those keys, get medication, non-compliance. She gets it, and she runs with that idea until she can't, until she's forced to. I was asked whether it was something within her that said, this is wrong, or something supernatural. And I chose that something supernatural happened, because the way we're living now, it's going to take something supernatural to change what we've kind of accepted, we've swallowed, we cursed, we've mumbled, we've talked about. Why don't they do? Why don't they do? And here, she comes to a point where it's, why don't I do? It's a huge, huge choice for somebody who says, look, I'm just doing my job. And that's the Miss Chris that I created. The Terror Season 3 was a very organic experience for Light and Pounder. Emily V. Aragonez /AMC. Screen Rant. Now, I've got to say, the Terror I've always felt has been this great little underdog horror series in that I always wanted it to get more love, more attention, and I'm so glad that it's back. The Devil in Silver is just fantastic. For you, what was your familiarity with the show and with the novel prior to coming on board? CCH Pounder. I didn't know anything, Grant. I was as ignorant as they come. Literally, I had no idea. I met the writer for the first time, who I was like, LaValle, you're the writer. Everything was sort of like, oh. And I kept saying, oh, but I haven't really done any kind of horrors like that. And then people would just go, you did Orphan, you did this, you did that. What's similar is that they're all kind of these psychological, scary things. I kind of went, whoa, I have been in the genre, hanging out for a bit, and it just reveals itself as different. You even think of X-Files, that was kind of